permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here, Fred Shaft.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend.
Welcome to episode 450 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, June 6th, 2024 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergan, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. As always, thank you for your reviews. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder. I'm going to start.
Oh boy.
Had a saga.
Usually this means you spent the weekend in the emergency room. So.
Oh, well, no. Fortunately, not that this time. No, I spent my last few days just trying to work things out with AT&T, because something happened with my internet. Didn't really know what. They have this app, like My Home app or something, and I'm sure it's very convenient for them. They have some kind of maybe AI, but certainly, bot that helps you to try and troubleshoot your issues. Once before, when I had an issue, I was able to successfully solve it, but this time it did not work out that way. So at the end of all the troubleshooting, it said, it seems like the problem is with your gateway. Can you confirm this is your address? And I'm like, yeah. Okay, we're sending you a new one. And like, it's shipped. And I'm like, no, like, what? There's no, you just confirm the address and it's getting sent. There's no additional, like, let me check that this is what you really want. But anyway, so here I was thinking, well, I would rather just get my own modem router, whatever, so that I don't have to deal with their equipment, because I have had some, like drops in service before, and I'm like, I'll bet I could get something better. Well, it turns out after going to, Micro Center and Staples and Best Buy and all these places, AT&T actually, if you have fiber, the cable that goes between like your wall and the modem, they don't make like consumer modems with the jack for that cable.
It's a pretty good way to get your money every month. That's a neat trick. Yeah.
So is this like, yeah, you can get a router and set your like combined modem router to pass through mode from them, and so you can use the theoretically better router. Apparently, a bunch of people do this either because they don't trust the AT&T equipment, or it's not up to snuff. Apparently, a lot of problems can arise from having a combined modem router. So that was, furthering my wish to not use their equipment, but I'm stuck with their equipment. And apparently, there's a new model that they have, but of course, the new gateway they sent me is not the new fancy model that looks like an Apple product.
Why would it be?
Why would it be? It looks exactly the same as my old one. And I go to try and set it up, and it doesn't work. Worse than that, the app says this will take about 30 minutes to set up. So I'm like, great, I'm going to go do something else. And I come back and it says, there was a problem. Something went wrong. I'm like, okay, can you give me more? And I try and I hit like troubleshoot this, and it just like crickets, right? It's like it just failed to load. So I'm like, okay, I'll try this again. So all right, another half hour, and this and same thing. Then I try again, and I'm like, I'm going to look at it the whole time, or at least like be right here. So I'm playing Hades on my Steam Deck while I'm waiting for this thing to load. And you know, all that means is I get to witness the moment when it says something went wrong. And so nothing's working. And at that point, it's too late to do anything about it. So next day, I call customer service. Actually, no. I think I did call customer service that night because they have 24-hour, got someone in Eastern Europe or maybe Russia. And she walked me through all the same things that I had done troubleshooting from, you know, the app on my phone. But they have to do it. And she said, well, it looks like everything, like all the stuff, all the individual pieces should be working. It might be this cable that goes, it might be your cable that goes from the wall to the gateway. And I'm like, great. So you mean my previous gateway might have been fine. Okay. I go.
Well, it's not like you could buy a new cable to test it.
Right. So the next day I get this cable, go to Micro Center. I return the router that I had gotten because after having bought the cargo bike, we're a little strapped. Much as I'd love to do the pass-through thing with the router, you know, we'll save that for another time. And I get this cable. I come back, try and install it. Nothing. It's same problem, broadband light flashing red. So I call customer service again. And I say, can you please send me a technician? And they say, well, sure, but we'll automatically charge you the $99 fee if you don't let me try and troubleshoot it with you first. And I'm like, okay, let's do this song and dance again. Maybe something will be different. So I do the exact same things that I did the day before with the customer service person, and to no avail. Same issue. And she says, "All right, we'll send you a technician tomorrow. You know, pick a time, make sure you're there, whatever, all that stuff." So today was technician day. Technician calls to let me know that he's on his way, and he says, "But what's the problem you're having? Because I'm looking here, and everything says everything's coming up positive. Have you checked today?" And I go, and no joke, the broadband light is green.
Oh no!
So he still shows up just in case. You know, maybe it was intermittent. Maybe there was still nope, just working mysteriously.
That's always the best kind of working when you didn't do anything and you don't know why it's working now.
Yeah. So, fortunately, I mean, maybe I'll find out later. I don't think they charged me because there was also this guy that was not the technician who was there from AT&T that wanted to ask some questions about the service and various things. And he was like, well, maybe, you know, it might have really been the gateway, and it's just with getting the new one, it can take some time for stuff to like get set up on our end in terms of like disabling the old and enabling the new. And I'm like, okay, whatever. It's nothing I can fix, clearly. I was hoping to at least come away with a like, oh, try this next time. But no, it's just mysteries abound. I have internet again, so I'm able to record tonight, so that's nice. But I'm just at a loss. So I played some ladder, mostly. Actually, I guess not mostly. A good mix of my hand buff, excavate, paladin, and twist. We'll talk about twist later. But I had to do it for the majority of the week, tethering my phone to my iPad.
Oh no.
Which is not pleasant, because the thing that like nothing grinds my gears more than losing a game to a disconnect. And you know, that is more likely to happen when I'm doing that situation than when I have my actual good internet. So, yep.
Yep. Usually it's me with the bad internet.
Uh, well, I got to live my best life on Friday night because I did as promised. Log into EU for my stream Friday night to play Xyrella in Twist on EU before it had opened in NA because Friday was May 31st, and when I stream, it's like I think it's like 1 a.m. EU time. And I had a great time because nobody knew what to play yet. So everybody and a lot of the people that were playing were still playing like the free decks like Kael'thas and Rafam. So I was just murdering them because they didn't really know what to do about me. That changed about 2/3 of the way into the stream when people figured out Arfus. And then I started losing. But until that happened, I got lethal with a school teacher that gave me a noggling with Grace of the High Father that I had
so rude.
I'd played on myself and then breakdanced and played it again.
It was definitely I was watching most of this stream and it was a weird like headspace to be like, no, healing is lethal. And opponents were very frequently missing this. Like they would set it up, like they would worry about damage to their face. Yeah. Right. And it's like, no. I mean, technically you do have to worry a bit about damage to the face because that also heals Xyrella's face, but they would worry way too much about like board control or about like things that were not, or miss that Wicked had lethal because lethal was healing. And
it was a bizarre world. The mirror was probably the fastest priest mirror I've ever played in my life because it is just a race to 60 and you just ignore everything. So it's just a race. It was over by turn 8. Like I think I played 2 mirrors. They were both over by turn 8. They're just races. It was delightful. I've not been able to play Xyrella very much after that because anything aggressive murders you in the face very quickly.
Yeah, you have healing, but not control.
Well, you don't really have clears either, and like the clears that you do have are awkward. You're a Highlander deck, which is great if you're getting Raza the Chained in for some reason, but your hero power is already 1, so who cares? Like I've had Raza the Chained just like stuck in my hand because like I could play this or I could do anything else and just pay the 1 to heal and it's fine. So and you just kind of get murdered pretty quickly and you just don't have enough removal to keep up, especially with Arfus. Just like, oh, this was the other thing. So the first time I played against Arfus, they generated an Azurite snake. And I said, okay, well, let's do some science and see if we still win if we hit our max life, which is now 53. And spoiler, we do not. The game just continues. And then it's like, well, that sure does suck.
Yeah.
Because like as soon as they do that once.
This is not a deck that can win through damage. There is very little damage in this deck. They are going to change that. Hat did say in the server today that is the thing they got a lot of feedback about, and that they are going to change, that it will just be whatever your max health is, because it feels terrible. You have to find a way to steal the snake to do it back just so that you might win, but probably not because it's Arfus.
Yeah, like I was holding, I don't know if it was a power chord synchronize or what, to copy the snake.
I think it was a power word steal.
Oh yeah, it was power word steal that I had generated. That I was going to play to steal the rat or the snake and then play it again. I didn't need it in that game, of course, but I had fun. And I just climbed some with Handbuff Paladin. I haven't been playing much standard just because Twist is a thing, especially after they made the adjustments to Twist. And like there's only so much you can play Handbuff Paladin before you just kind of get sick of it. So, or at least me. I know it's not true for everybody, but just that's kind of me.
I really think the excavates help.
I tried your deck. It did not go well at all. Not even a little. And then I went back to the keeper strength list. So I tried. So I'm like, oh yeah, Edel says this is good. I'll try this. No, it was a disaster.
It has a very different matchup spread.
Yes.
I keep playing different Handbuff Paladins with different matchup spreads and always queuing into the other thing. You know, I think the first one with Excavate Paladin, I ran into a Reno Priest and like that's what it's for. You have more sustain, you have more ability to, but you still have the charge, and they're not expecting you to still have the charge. But then whenever I was playing a version with like Keeper Strength, I didn't need it. If I was playing a version without Keeper Strength, I did need it.
Yeah. So but it's fine. It was working okay. But in other news, I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I don't remember if I did or not, that my doctor started me on some weight loss drugs for my blood pressure, among other things. And as of today, I'm just shy of 20 pounds lost since I started those.
Wow.
Which was, it was 19.9. I was bummed. And I actually went to the bathroom and got back on the scale to see if I could push it over. but I mean, 20 pounds, like this is the least I've been since the pandemic. So I've been pretty happy, but I've had a lot more energy too. Like I've been, able to like go out and actually like do things on the weekend instead of just sitting here and wanting and like waiting for the weekend to end, that I had to go back and crawl out of bed for work. But it's, and it's been a little bit chaotic with trying to get it just because it's in such demand, though thankfully my doctor had already put in next month's dose like yesterday or the day before, even though I still have 2 weeks left. So I got it already, so I don't have to go through that again. Because it's been, it's the kind of thing where it's not fun to start it, and then if you miss it for a week, then you get to start over, and I do not. No, I do not want to do that again. So, but yeah, I've been pretty happy about that. So I'm hoping that that's gonna help some things, because certainly the stress in my life is not going away. So at least if I can do something on the other side, maybe I can help with the blood pressure. So, how about you, Megasa?
Well, in terms of the half of life and ladder, because there is more to life than life on ladder. I had the school where I teach had graduation yesterday, so that was really fun. It's a really small school, so every single graduating senior has a teacher say something about them. So I was able to say that for one of the students who I've worked with a lot over the past couple of years, and it's just really sweet to hear that personalized thing about everyone. And the students did a great job. It was very, very hot, but at least it wasn't windy. Last year, it was so windy that like chairs were blowing over people's like speeches and the microphones were going. There was like water like 20 feet behind. And so everyone was chasing after things to keep it from going in the water. But this year, there was still a bit of wind, but it was just a nice breeze. It kept you from dying from the heat. I also had the final boss of my Pathfinder, level 20 Pathfinder. Pathfinder is very similar to Dungeons and Dragons, if you're not familiar. Campaign. We're not quite done with this fight yet. I think because my brother, the DM, is making it harder on purpose, which is my fault. Because, so last time we fought a big boss in this, I died in 3 turns. I'm basically a wizard. Technically not really a wizard, but basically a wizard. So I only have so many spells. So I was like, all right, I'm going to die in 3 turns because I don't have a great way to deal with area of effect damage. So I'm just going to cast Mythic Time Stop, which gives me a bunch of extra turns, and then cast Delayed Fireball 5 times, maximized, changed to cold damage because it was like a Fire Phoenix boss, so I knew it would be immune to fire. 360 damage despite the boss making all of its saves. And then I did it again for only 270 damage because I'd used up a bunch of resources, counter spelling and stuff like that. So now I have no high level spell slots, only a few mythic points, which is the thing you get in the mythic campaign. But I did more than half of the boss's damage by myself, which usually is the wizard. I'm just crowd control. I'm not really doing a ton of damage. But this time I did. I also had protected myself with a prismatic sphere, which is I can go in and out, but nothing can get into me. And the boss couldn't dispel it after multiple tries. And so finally just put a wall of stone around it and was like, fine, you can't shoot spells out of this. So I could teleport out, but I can't like teleport out and teleport in the same turn. So I was finally, I expect to die now, but I will die happy. Need to get resurrected again, but we're level 20 mythic, so like, who cares? It'll be the end of the campaign anyway.
These are like the levels of campaign that I'm just like, what even? There are no rules anymore. Like,
No, there absolutely aren't rules. I needed some rare spell component for a spell called Legendary Proportions. It's like Enlarged Person, but way better. And it was like ground dinosaur bone. And, I asked we were on a different plane than the material plane, and there is none of that. And I'm like, I'm just going to plane shift to the place where this comes from. Go buy it for like double market price and then plane shift back. It's fine.
Sure.
We have 24 hours. I can do this.
See, I'm happy that the campaign I'm going to be DMing is just it's 1 to 13. Stops before things get too crazy. It'll be fine.
You have one level with the 7th level spells, so people can go crazy, and then it's over. Yeah.
Oh, you're plane shifting at dinosaur bones. I get anxious just going to the supermarket. Like, good lord, like.
I kind of knew that my brother wouldn't want to like make this environment and would just hand wave. All right, fine, you get the dinosaur bones. Can we get back to my campaign, please? So in terms of Hearthstone, I did play a little bit of Standard, still mostly hand buff, although I got demolished by a Zarimi Priest earlier today, and I was like, I need to play some Zarimi Priest again. I then almost died to a Burn Mage who got me down to 5 and froze my face on 6. They did get a good Elemental Companions roll. They got the cheaper one, and then they copied it with Reverb. And I had to use an Outfit Tailor on a mini plushie just to heal. But it's okay because I still had a Leeroy and still had plenty of damage. But, I was like, oh yeah, that is a good use of the Outfit Tailor. It can just be a big heal on a rusher with lifesteal, of which you have multiple. So, and I played a bunch of Twist, especially once we decided we wanted to talk about Twist today, which, spoiler alert, is what we'll be talking about in Decksplanations. I did play a little bit of Xyrella, but I realized it's not. I had thought it would be like a hybrid of the kind of priest deck that I like and the kind of priest deck that Wicked Good likes, but actually it's just a control priest that makes the opponent concede when you stabilize.
Yeah, you just save the opponent the trouble of conceding, basically. You concede for them.
And of course, it's not super well situated into the meta. I played a little bit of King Crush, which was pretty fun, but definitely not quite up to snuff. It just runs out. You either draw too many big beasts, and then because it discounts the big beasts when you play spells, but if you have too many beasts, they get spread out over too many beasts, so you can't cheat them out early enough. But then if you only have a couple beasts, then if you don't keep drawing, you don't happen to top deck them, then you run out. So it didn't work out super well. Then I kind of waited. I think I put in the Twist channel of the Discord, I was like, someone please at me as soon as the health changes are live, because I was seeing literally nothing but Arfus. And I didn't really want to play Arfus because I guess I'm too hipster for that. So but once the change came in, especially today, because I had the day off because the graduation was yesterday, I played a bunch of different things, and we'll talk about that later. I also wanted to briefly mention, I linked in the show notes, World 8 had been talking about some budget decks that he had made, and he ended up making one for every single class. Except for Zarimi Priest, they all have one or fewer non-core legendaries in them. And he tried to limit epics as much as possible. The Burn Spell Mage literally is only rares and commons. And they're all, if you have Amonthul, you should probably put that in the Zarimi Priest. But the point is, these are decks that you don't have to have a lot to play. They're all like versions of meta decks. And I certainly trust World 8's deck building skills. So one that I wanted to highlight a little. There's one for Hand Buff Paladin that is only commons plus Leeroy Jenkins, who of course isn't core. And there's a spell damage druid, but it's not Aulonius. It's got like a few dragons, and then it's just kind of burn mage, but you protect your spell damage minions with the Woodland Wonders. You just get those taunts up early. Yeah. The 2/5 taunts, and then they just can't kill your spell damage minions. And then you smart them down with burn. Apparently, I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but that is apparently the game plan for it. So yeah. So overall, I've been having a great time with Twist. I've been having some fun with Standard, but it was nice to get a change up, and I'm looking forward to the summer. I am still teaching summer school, but a reduced schedule, so should be a little easier.
Okay. Well, and I guess speaking of Twist, we have a lot of Twist news and then a lot of Twist explanations, so we should twist over to Twist and do that.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So we did have our promised first batch of Whizbang Heroes updates. So there were a couple things going on at the Twist launch. One was that Arfus was everywhere because it was way too good. The other was that some cheaters had managed to make their way into Twist by manipulating Zyrella's health so that you would just win on turn 1. Or there was one clip of, I think it was Mikayaton, I'm not sure, who was playing against someone who was named Celestalon, who it was not Celestalon, who played Reno Jackson and somehow, was playing Zyrella and somehow played Reno Jackson on one and won the game, which is, that's not in that deck. So all of the cheaters have been banned. They were apparently not hard to find. And they rolled out there was a hot fix to stop the cheats as well. The update was briefly out on Monday until there was a problem with some games ending in double concedes in a draw. So they had to roll that back and then push that out the next day, but it is live now. So they've adjusted just the hero health for this first adjustment. So Arfus went from 35 down to 25. The only hero, I believe, who has less than normal starting health. He's still fine, by the way. So just in case you were worried, he is still a very good boy. So you do not need to worry about Arfus. He's doing fine. Al-Akir went down from 35 to 30. The Lich King also went down from 35 to 30. Zul'jin went down from 35 to 30, as did Forest Ward and Omu. And then a number that got buffed, Cthulhu went from 35 to 45. Dr. Boom went from 45 up to 50. King Kresh went from 35 to 40. Rafam, Guff, and N'Zoth also all went up from 35 to 40. They are expecting to do these around once a week, and then in the normal balance patch window, they may do larger scale adjustments to the actual text on the hero powers or the passives or the deck lists. So there are there's some things they can do with the decks too. Some of the decks could probably stand to be a little bit less efficient than they are, particularly Arfus. Arfus could probably be a little bit less efficient, but yeah, so they're going to make some of those adjustments at the next balance patch window. But for right now, what they're doing is the health, and the health seems to at least have opened things up somewhat. Arfus is not dead, but he's definitely a little bit more fair, and a number of the decks that were nerfed are still very playable.
Yeah, I was playing like Forest Ward and Omu a fair bit today, and that felt great against a lot of things, including against Arfus. I will say the aggressive decks definitely benefited the most from the health change for obvious reasons. So if those are some of the more viable decks at the moment, even if you're seeing a lot of Arfus, although I was not seeing a ton of Arfus, I'm at a slightly lower rank bracket, I think.
It's kind of trickled down over the last couple days. It was still, even as of yesterday, there was a lot of Arfus. I've seen less today because people have just kind of figured out how to play against it, which is hit it in the face. That's generally pretty useful. But again, if you're Zyrella, you can't really do that, so then you lose. But that is so that's what's there. And also we have some shop updates. A very important one. Ben Hearthstone has been on the watch for almost a month now. But Squirrel Illyria is now available in the shop. So you can buy that for $9.99 or 1,000 runestones. You get the portrait and 5 hunter packs. It is delightful. I haven't bought it yet, and it takes quite a bit to get me to pay money for a hunter skin, because then I have to explain that to Sidisi, and nobody wants to do that. But I may have to because squirrels. This is absolutely delightful, and you can go pick that up in the shop right now. Finally, I don't know why they made us wait a month, but they have their reasons. And they're also the other portraits that are available for gold, or for 1,000 gold or $6.99 USD. Ember Court Illidan is still there. Juggler Morgul, which is not easy to say, is a shaman skin that is available. That was one of the Fire Festival skins. You can pick that up. There are also signature Popgar and tier bundles as well. Those, as usual, are $49.99 USD or 5,000 runestones. They come with the card and 5 packs from Whizbang's. So if you have the money to spend on those are available to you. And that's really the news this week. So, but we do have Concede listener series going on, so we can go over to tournaments.
It's the grand tournament!
So, week 2 of the Concede listener series. We've got a pretty, diverse spread once again. All classes represented except Shaman. So no nature Shaman believers, although that has been popping up on ladder for me. And also 4 out of the 23 brought Whizbang, which, I respected. Just gotta high roll the Warlock, right? That's all. So in the non-Whizbang lineups, of course, we had 42% Handbuff Pally, 32% Reno Hunter, and then 26% Insanity Warlock, which makes sense to me. Only surprise, I feel like, is the Hunter there. But then we've got Handbuff DK making an appearance, which is interesting. Some Zarimi Priest and Shopper DH. So, Zarimi Priest and Shopper DH are both quite respectable still. It's just there's kind of a lack of enthusiasm for them. Most popular lineup was Handbuff Paladin, Insanity Warlock, and then just a third proactive deck. Again, it's best of 3, so just 3 decks. So people would go with Zarimi Priest or Burn Mage or Rogue in those lineups. Some unusual brings. Lepton brought a Holy Paladin, which now I personally want to go have a look at because I made something similar, but I wonder if maybe it's the kind of thing that would work in a lineup but not on ladder, because you just can't really handle value decks like most of the Reno decks, honestly. Any your priests, your warriors, any of those. Torby Flenderson brought Reno Warlock. Actually, they messaged me earlier when I had mentioned that I attempted Reno Warlock before and said that and having success with that, so it makes sense to me there that they would bring it to the listener series. And then Pilot has been on the Wishing Well Rogue. So yeah, all 3 of those back. It seems like maybe those are going to be the players' signature unusual decks, right? They'll just be bringing. But that means there were as many Well Rogues as Excavate Rogues. I think that means we are doing people the good service of not playing very much Excavate Rogue, because
Well, Rogue isn't that much better, I'll say. Like, that's,
my point is it's 1-in-1, right? So, the community reflecting the cast, right?
Yes.
In not being fans of
friends don't let friends play Rogue. That's all.
More Zarimi Priest than Excavate Rogue.
Whoa. Okay, Rogue, okay. Random nonsense Rogue.
Okay. Fair enough.
I do appreciate a good odd Rogue or Miracle Rogue. So
these rogues are pretty odd.
Not that way. The bands were primarily Paladin or Warlock. They made up 70% of the bands. Both Reno Warriors were banned. And then Hunter, although a popular bring, was only banned once, which I feel like that tracks with how it would go with other tournaments as well. People don't like to ban Hunter when it shows up. Unless it's
banning
like
warrior, even if it wasn't the objectively correct play, it's like mood. I don't want to deal with Brann either.
So, World 8, Glacier, Jolt C, Rapipol, Wild 9, and Robobson are the undefeated players after week 2. And then just quick numbers breakdown. 8 hand buff paladins, 6 regular to excavate, 6 Reno hunters, 5 insanity warlocks, 4 hand buff DKs, 4 Whizbang, which we mentioned, 3 shopper DK, 2 regular, 1 naga, 3 Zarimi priest, 2 Reno druids, 2 secret hunters, 2 burn spell mage, 2 Reno warriors, and then from there we just have the ones, right? There's rainbow DK, Sif mage, holy paladin, Reno paladin, gaslight rogue, Sonya rogue, best of luck. Well rogue, excavate rogue, pain lock, and Reno warlock. There's some good Trollden clips of the Sonya rogue, Tic Tac and Pocket, because again, they're insane.
No, Insane's a different player.
That's true. Yeah. Who does not play that deck? So, just a few highlights before we close out. Wild 9 brought Whizbang into a non-Whizbang lineup and managed to take the win, rolling Automaton Priest for both games, 2-0. Is Whizbang that bad? Yes, it is. After losing to a well-executed Secret Hunter, Torby Flenderson won his final game against Critterpup with the grossest burn mage curve I've seen. Turn 2 keyboard. Turn 3, discount Elemental Companion, which then stuck. And then turn 4, manufacturing error with 2 0 mana fireballs. So,
oof.
Yeah, that's going to get you.
That'll do it.
Yep.
Yep.
Sorry. And turn 5, Forged Molten Rune was lethal.
That wasn't enough? There needed to be a turn 5?
No. Yeah.
We could have had and even grosser lethal if they'd also drawn the Molten Rune off the manufacturing error and then just turn 4.
You got to forge it, though, right?
That's true.
But so then the last highlight, despite getting down to 2 life against Robobson's Insanity Lock, World 8 managed to prevail with his Cycle Rogue by pumping out a 5/5 Lifesteal Spark Bot with Crystal Cove. Yes, it does buff +5/+5 when magnetizing, so you can get that +5/+5
it says play not
charge.
summon, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
World 8 says Spark Bots plus Crystal Cove is now his favorite way to play the deck. This is technically a week 3 match, but they completed it early. So glad everyone is having fun over in the listener series. And yeah, we're hopefully going to be continuing to have fun over in Twist. So we've got a little Decksplanations. We've each picked 2 heroes to cover based on sort of what each of us has been playing and having success with. That bit is important. I've played a bunch of stuff, not had success with all of them.
Yes, same.
All right. Well, as a reminder, we have in the show notes a list of all the Twist decks on Donkey's site, as well as you can see some stats for decks that there are enough games with to see the stats, which is so far 8 of the heroes: Arfus, the Lich King, Illidan, Al-Akir, Omu, Kael'thas, Brann, and Leeroy are the ones that Donkey has stats for. Of those, Arfus is still in the lead, followed by Lich King, Illidan, Al-Akir, and narrowly Omu as above 50%. Kael'thas and Brann are a little bit below, and Leeroy is 41.5%. But, he's fun and the games are fast. So,
but at least he has chicken.
And at least, you have to play him with some chicken. And then you can have the full experience. So we'd been talking a little bit before the show about, I think we'll mostly just focus on the heroes because we have several to get through, but we'd been talking a little bit at the start, or before the show today, about the overall meta, how there's just not a lot of AoE in even the slower decks, and the fact that only Illidan and Lich King are non-Highlander, that's an important part of their doing well. I think it means there's not a lot of consistency in most of the decks. Some of them have consistency through their hero power or just like being really good, like Arfus, and getting excavates all the time. That's consistent.
I mean, Arfus gets 2-ups by getting excavates, right? So he that's how he gets his 2-ups.
And then, of course, Kael'thas is just completely random. I've just been mostly running into Kael'thas, which apparently in testing, Kael'thas was the most popular choice, as people just like random stuff. Apparently, I saw Celestalon had a reply to someone's tweet where he said that Arfus was one of, if not the last hero that they added in, and so he got a little bit less testing, which could be part of why they missed the power imbalance there. They also have a really small team, as Edel pointed out in our chat, which could make it hard to get enough reps.
I think in particular, it just exacerbates, like, if the testing is based on what people are playing, what they want to play, and okay, let's make sure we get some games in on this thing, right? Like, it's going to be different than if you're like, okay, make sure we get 50 games on each of these heroes, right? Which,
right.
You know, I don't necessarily want them to do that, but it does mean that sometimes stuff is gonna flow differently. And I have no inside information on how all this works. I'm just sort of assuming that people are allowed to, everyone gets to participate in some of these tests, right? And they're gonna play what they want to play. And I think there's only one person who is full-time final design. I might be wrong about that, but the last I knew.
And even then, like, his priorities probably standard more so than Twist,
well,
right?
Sure, so. Yeah. Would that I would assist in that. Everyone wants to be initial. Just give me final. Anyway. Yeah, so I think things can fall through. And that I do think the health totals had an impact, right? It's much more possible for aggressive decks to just kill you when you only have 25 life. And
even 30.
What that means then is if people are playing Arfus in force, then you might get a backlash of people trying to counter it, and then you end up with a decrease in people playing Arfus because they keep getting their faces kicked in. So, it's kind of cyclical.
Absolutely. And I think, and they're aware that there's only so much that they can do with the health total change. But they really burnt the midnight oil all weekend, especially because of the cheating thing, which didn't get discovered until about 8 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah.
And there were people in all weekend fixing it. Unfortunately, there was then a problem on Monday. Apparently, the health total change is new tech. It's different than the way that they do the armor adjustments in Battlegrounds. It should be more convenient, but there was a glitch. So, but even given that glitch, it was pretty fast to get changes, certainly much faster than we could have had anything besides the health total changes. So it was frustrating to see so much Arfus. I was lucky not to see any actual cheaters, but that would have been much more frustrating, I'm sure.
Also, why are you cheating in Twist? Like, what? Like who hurt you? Right? Like,
knowing that you'll be banned.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I guess some people just want to see the world burn, but like, why? Like, go touch grass. Like,
it's also like you don't actually get to play the game because you played Reno on turn 1. Like
right.
Yeah, where's the fun and excitement in that? I guess it's just like, I won.
I think there's a bit of that, the like, haha, I beat the system. These people do not think forward to ramifications at all. or don't care, right? I mean, it is Twist, Sun, and Zyrella. Oh, I guess you would still have to craft the Zyrella, right? That wasn't one of the free ones, but
no, it wasn't free. No.
Anyway, I don't know. Maybe they were able to hack that too somehow. But yeah, so maybe it's like burner accounts. They just like that feeling.
Sure.
But there's no clear, like, with the bots where you go, okay, well, someone is somehow monetizing this, right? Here it's just like, what? What are you doing?
we did. It's like we did what we must because we can, right? Like that's what it is. But whatever.
Especially like the person who figured out how to do this. First of all, like, why would you do that to people and then like put it out? But I could see the like challenge in it and the like feeling successful in ruining everyone else's experience with the game. But then finding it on the internet somehow. Anyway. We've belabored the point. So I thought we would kind of go in order here of the deck statistical win rate. Again, what you find success with, just as with standard, is not necessarily the same thing as what is supposedly the best. Also, it will depend on what you're seeing in your own meta. But we were going to have Wicked start with Arfus and the Lich King.
I don't know how I became the Death Knight main. Like, I don't know how that happened, but I have been, I mean, because I can't really play Zarella, I tried my hardest to make Zarella work, and it's just like the matchups are not in her favor. So if I'm not having fun, nobody else is. So, I'm going to play the broken decks. No, but it's Arfus, he's definitely on the decline, but he's still very good. And in general, like, you're winning through. So Arfus starts off with Dig Up Frost, which whenever you play a Frost spell, you excavate, and then it changes to Unholy. Unholy changes to Blood, and then so on. So if you play Frost, Unholy, Blood, Frost in that order, then you'll have completed an Excavate cycle. You get a random legendary Excavate. As of right now, the Paladin and Shaman ones are not. They're supposedly in the pool. I have yet to see one, and I've played a lot of games of Arfus.
I think they might still. Yeah, if they're not in the pool, they will be there soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when they add the Shaman one in, that's going to hurt Arfus a bunch, because that's going to be a completely dead card. Because if you don't remember what the Shaman Excavate legendary is, and I don't blame you because nobody's ever seen it, it transforms all minions in your hand, deck, and battlefield into ones that cost 3 more, which basically means you lose all of your runes, because you're probably transforming into non-Death Knight cards. So then you're not excavating anymore for the rest of the game. And like, yeah, you're going to have, slightly buffed minions. Maybe that's fine in an endgame scenario, but also a lot of the value that you're getting from Arfus is that you're consistently generating the excavate nut cards. Not even necessarily the legendary ones, but just like all the 1s, 2s, and 3s that you're getting along the way. And the hero power will spend up to 3 corpses that will discount cards in your hand by 3. So you're just getting the excavate cards, which are all generally pretty cheap. You're discounting them. That makes them cheaper. And then you just kind of become this perpetual motion machine, assuming that you can keep the runes going.
Yeah, I have seen Arfuses just like continually swing the board, and they don't ever play the big rewards, right? The 4 meta 5/5s until, if they get to late game, because the 1 through 3s can just be so good and efficient, and they'll generate minions that they then play, which make corpses that they fuel their hero power with to discount their hand, and like it's just this crazy, self-feeding cycle, and it feels like the only way to deal with it is to just be like, okay, eventually I can't deal with your stuff, I'm just going to kill you.
Yeah, that's generally it. And you have ways of healing up. I mean, certainly you have the Primus later on, which is a big heal, and you can get, I think there's a Quartzite Crusher in the deck, and you can also get runes of whatever to generate another Quartzite Crusher for some lifesteal. You've got the Rainbow Rusher that will get lifesteal because you have all 3 runes in your deck, so you have some lifesteal available to you also. I think, but the most important thing to remember when you're playing this deck is that if you stop chaining the excavates, you will die. This is kind of a theme across most of the decks in this format, that if you start drawing dead or you stop generating value, like, everyone is a shark, right? As soon as you stop moving, you die. So you have to keep planning that. And sometimes that means that you may need to take an inefficient turn if you're waiting on a rune, because if you play that out and then you draw the next rune, but you can't get more draw, then you're just going to stall out, right? So, like, when you're mulliganing, I like to make sure that I have one of each rune in my hand, in my opening hand, if I can, and kind of plan out how I'm going to play those. I will defrost without the corpse on 2. It's fine. I will frost strike anything I can see just to get the excavate, because, like, the actual value that you're getting from most of the cards is secondary to actually getting the excavates, which means that you need to plan out the multi-rune cards carefully. Right? So if you've got a Quartzite Crusher, it's got blood and frost on it. Do you have another blood rune, and do you have another frost rune? If you only have one of them, then you want to play the one that you have something that's not that, so you can then play that. So you have to be very careful and think ahead in terms of what are you doing to keep that perpetual motion going, because as soon as you stall out, that's when you lose the game.
Well, and the ones that sort of give you another of the same are all the more valuable, right? So you mentioned Frost Strike, that's one. There's also the 2-mana 3/2 Death Rattle draw a frost spell, right? So then you've got the Unholy one that if an undead died, you discover an Unholy rune card, and the Blood one where you spend a corpse to discover a blood rune card. So
plus the Primus too.
Yes, although the Primus does not have any itself.
It doesn't have any itself, but it can fix your cycle, right? Because you get to choose what it is. So you might end up doing, like, well, I'm going to do the 3, discount a spell and get spell damage, even though I have no spells in hand, and I'll just look for a frost spell to be able to get some value off of it.
Yeah, it's insane how the engine just keeps rolling. Yeah. And if someone ever lets you live to turn 10 and you have CNE, like, usually you've hero powered most turns.
Yeah, and it may not cost 10 by then either.
Yeah, it would be hard enough to outvalue an Arfus deck, but the few times I've managed to just stave off aggression, like, when you're facing Arfus, you might be tempted to just try to stay alive. You have to kill them. You have to figure out when you're turning the corner and just killing them. Because even if you do stave off everything, they will CNE you for a bazillion. So, if they draw it. But I think this is definitely, if you're being annoyed by Arfus, probably is still a good idea to play it, get a sense of how it works, how it loses, just like with any deck that you are frustrated by on ladder.
Yeah, assuming you have it.
Assuming that you have Arfus, right? I wouldn't necessarily, but we probably have balance changes coming. This is important, actually. I wouldn't necessarily craft something if you're not okay with potentially losing the dust if it does get adjusted, because they're unlikely. I don't know that we have confirmation on this exactly, but they are unlikely to.
We have confirmation.
We have confirmation. Okay. They will not refund dust for changes to the twist decks.
Yeah, basically the stance is that cards are not being changed and refunds are for when cards are changed. So, you have a front-loaded decision that twist stuff goes away after a certain amount of time already. And certainly with the health totals, right, that's not even in a window where they could give dust refunds. And it's unlikely that they will give dust refunds for things like, actually, I think they may have confirmed this as well. Like if they're changing around hero powers or passives, right? Any of the stuff that is the hero, they're not changing the card that you have to own to unlock that hero. And so it's not considered a thing that you would get a dust refund for.
So if you're going to craft Arfus, do it because you want to play the deck now, or because you have dust sitting around if you do, knowing that they will probably try to keep it viable, but they're almost certainly going to hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I imagine they'll put the health back up when they do, right? Like that's a thing they do sometimes in BGs, right? So they'll change around health totals and then they'll change again once they're able to actually balance the hero.
Yeah. And I mean, they might even just not even touch the passive or the hero power. They might just change the deck list. They might bring the average casting cost of the cards up or something.
I feel like the hero power has to go has to get changed.
Yeah,
somehow.
I don't know.
The hero power is just insane in the sense that it gives you a mana reduction of 3 for 1 mana and spends corpses towards your CNE. Like,
yeah. So
just icing on the cake.
Yeah, but I mean, it is beatable. Hit it in the face. Hope that they run out of stuff. Like sometimes they stall out. Like just don't concede to them, right? Because they will. They're not going to do it every time. They'll do it a lot of the time, but they're not going to do it every time. But yeah, so when we were talking about this today, we were talking about what decks we're going to talk about, and I saw that Lich King was one of the better ones. It was kind of a sleeper, and I said, you know what? I haven't really spent a lot of time with the Lich King. Let me give that a try. And boy, howdy, is that deck good. That is probably the deck that I would be looking at right now because people don't really know how to play against it yet. And even if they do, it sometimes just does not matter. So the Lich King, his hero power, he will summon a ghoul with Reborn for 2 mana. So you get a 1/1 charger. If it dies, or when it dies, it will summon another ghoul that dies at the end of your next turn. So if it dies on your opponent's turn, it sticks around. That will give you 2 corpses every time that you press that, which is relevant because every time that you spend corpses, the Lich King's passive will summon a risen ghoul that has the number of stats equal to the number of corpses you spend. So if you spend 4 corpses, you get a 4/4. It's a risen ghoul, so it doesn't generate a corpse itself because that would be even more broken. But that does not matter because there are a lot of things in that deck that spend corpses in big chunks. Corpse Bride is probably the most egregious because if you're doing it right, you get a 10/10 taunt and a 10/10 not taunt. And that is a lot of stats on turn 5. You also have Corpse Farm, which will spend up to 8 to get you a random card of that casting cost. I got a Brann in 8/8 and was fine. Malignant Horror is particularly gross because it keeps spending the 4 mana, the 4 corpses, as long as you can keep generating them. So you get a 2/4 with Reborn. You get both of which generate corpses when they die. You get another 2/4 with Reborn that's going to keep reproducing itself, and you get a 4/4. You do need to be careful when you have that you're looking for how many spots you have on board, because that is occasionally relevant. I've sometimes had to forego a Malignant Horror activation because I just had a full board and I couldn't. Or worse, you get the Malignant Horror, but you don't get the 4/4, which is kind of sad. So you do have to be cognizant of board space when you're doing this, but it's just like make corpses and spend them. That's really so you're going to spend your first couple turns. You want things like mining casualties. You want a hero power, probably more than you think you should in the early game just to get the corpse total up. Body Bagger's obviously very good. Anything that's getting you corpses in the first couple of turns is good because you want that corpse total as high as possible when your spenders start coming online. Again, Corpse Farm, Corpse Bride in particular, if you can get that up to 10 on turn 5, it's going to be very hard for your opponent to deal with that. Or a Malignant Horror on 4, you just want to get the 4 corpses for. There's also the one that summons 2/2 zombies and gives them taunt if you spend 4 corpses. That also summons a 4/4, and then you have taunts. The taunts also give you more corpses. So a lot of your minions give you corpses as well. But you need to keep spending corpses intentionally so that you have stuff for the spenders to spend. And then you need to make sure that you're getting the value out of the spenders. It's sometimes okay to spend another turn generating corpses so that your spender can be big when it goes off, because the bigger that the minions are, the harder they're going to be to remove.
This is definitely a meta with not a lot of removal for a big minion, or when there is, it's mostly damage based. So those extra points can really make a difference. And if it's a token deck and you're threatening them, they have to send everything into your large minions. So I haven't played a lot of Lich King myself, but I've run into it plenty, and it's not unbeatable, but it is very strong. And
if it gets a good start, if it gets a start out of the gate, it can just kind of come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, there are a bunch of 10/10s. How do I deal with this? And the answer is a lot of the time you don't. This is also one of the decks that is benefiting from being a non-Highlander deck in a Highlander format. So you do have you can be a little bit more liberal with things like an Acolyte of Death, right? Like you can do things and just get a couple of draws off of it because it's fine. You'll get another one, right? So like because the list has 2 ofs, you can just kind of do the thing a little bit more often, and you don't have to worry about is this my only Acolyte of Death or my only Corpse Farm? Am I getting enough value out of this? You don't really need to worry about it. Just play your cards.
Playing your cards in general is good advice. Well, a couple of the other ones that are popular enough to have stats that are also doing pretty well and that I've had some success with are Illidan and Al-Akir. So I want to start with Illidan. Illidan is the other non-Highlander, and Illidan has the passive Fell Inside. After a friendly character attacks, reduce the cost of a Fell spell in your hand by 1. So that's whether your hero attacks or any of your minions attack. And then your hero power is the Demon Hunter hero power, except it also gives you lifesteal. It's important that you still have a way to attack with your hero. And the lifesteal can be nice, especially with something like Multi-Strike, to heal you up a little bit. I don't find it necessarily, or, if you get that like also with a Chaos Strike or something, but you don't have like momentum in the deck. But what you do have is a combination of some draw, things that generate tokens with Rush, or that otherwise attack right away, and Fell spells, obviously. And what you want to be doing, and you also have Jace. Importantly, you also have Jace. Now, you don't always draw Jace because you have a large deck. So you do have to be aware that you may not draw Jace, but especially if you draw him early, you can really do the old Jace Fell Demon Hunter if you liked Fell Demon Hunter decks with Jace back in the day, which was not that long ago. It might be the kind of thing where it actually was a long time ago and it just doesn't feel like it. Anyway, if you enjoyed Jace, then he's back in this deck. The thing that I've had to balance is what you feel like you want to do when you start playing this deck is like have all the Fell spells first. But the problem with that can be then you have nothing in your hand to play but Fell spells. And so you're playing them not discounted enough. And then later you draw your expendable performers and there's nothing in your hand to discount with it. Expendable performers was the 7 mana summon 7 1/1 rushers. If all the ones that you summoned die, even if you summon less than 7, if all of them die, then you summon a full board of 1/1 rushers again. And that's up to 14 mana discounts on your Fell spells if you have Fell spells for them to discount. So you want to try to prioritize an early game draw and attack so that then later you can just go off. Obviously, if you need to control the board against tokens to some extent, you don't want the board to get completely out of whack. You don't have the big AoE clears that Demon Hunters used to have, the lifesteal that you would do with Arcanist. I can't remember the name of this card, but you don't have that. But you do have like Fan the Hammer, a lot of things that target the lowest health. So it will clear the board. It will not clear the opponent's hero if they have minions, unless they're already really low. If you ever played Theno or other Demon Hunter decks, you do know that if they have like a big 10/10 taunt, but they're at 5, you'll kill them instead of the taunt. So that is an edge case, but it comes up just often enough. And Jotun is in this deck. Jotun is super powerful. Extra copies of your spells in general is super powerful. So like early on, you want to be drawing and you want to be making copies of your Fell spells, even if they're not totally discounted yet. And because you, as with the other decks, you don't want to run out of stuff. I've had a lot of games where I was like, just not quite enough damage. And then I'm kind of out of things in my hand, and that doesn't usually, unless I top deck Jace, that doesn't usually end well for me. So it's really fun because it is a more consistent deck to some extent in a format of Highlander decks. You can just do a bunch of damage to their face. I forgot to mention Infestation, which is actually a Warlock card. It's a 6-mana fel spell, summon a 3/3 Dread Imp to attack each enemy minion. It is the nuts, because there are so many token decks in this game. They go wide. You get like 6 discounts on your fel spells, and you've got a bunch of 3 attack things left over. They'll give you more discounts next turn and also do some damage to their face. So don't sleep on the Infestation, and it will often get cheaper. You'll be able to play it well before turn 6. Often.
I had someone play that against me, and I forgot what that card did, and I sure do remember after they played that card. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, so that is actually a valuable card. I might even, against certain heroes, I haven't been keeping it in the mull, but maybe I should against certain heroes.
I mean, against Lich King, you probably ought to, because Lich King is just going to go wide whether they like it or not. That was what I was playing at the time. Leeroy probably is not bad either.
Yeah.
Just because they have to play so much stuff out.
Omu is just all 2/2s.
Yeah.
Cthulhu, honestly. There's a lot of go wide heroes.
N'Zoth early game is all death rattles that summon tokens. So
same thing with Brann to some extent, right? Like Brann, a lot of those are like summoning a lot of little things also. So yeah.
Yeah.
Or not so little things. But yeah.
You want to be using your minions if possible to clear their board so that your fel spells are going to their face. So prioritizing like Coordinated Strike and Infestation is really nice. If Expendable Performers was a fel spell, that would be insane to keep, but it's not. You do have to wait till 7 to play that.
Good.
All right. And then the other one I wanted to talk about here was Al-Akir, who is technically a shaman, and I mean, most of Al-Akir's cards are shaman cards, and basically a elemental shaman. And the passive is after you play a legendary elemental, you get an elemental evocation. Those are the same ones from Kalimos. So you can deal 6 damage to their face. You can heal 6 to all friendly characters. You can do 2 damage to all minions, which I kept thinking was 3, and then being like, oh, right, it's only 2. Or you can get a couple of 2/3 taunts. Usually you're doing 6 damage to their face. That's one of the main ways that you burn them down. But you may need healing or something like that occasionally to stay alive. And your hero power is 1 mana, give a minion Divine Shield and Taunt, which is really good, especially against all those token decks, just stabilizing. I did prioritize the hero power more when I started playing it and backed off a little bit later to just like playing on curve, playing elementals on curve. And then the hero power is either a curve fixer, or you need to play a little more defensively, or you have a rusher and you want it to survive the rush attack because of the Divine Shield. So, and your deck is basically almost all elementals. You do have some spells, and you have a couple ways to discount elementals or draw them. You have a little bit of clear, like Baking Soda Volcano was nuts against a lot of decks in this format.
Yeah.
But do remember that it is an overload card. I kept playing it on 6 and then having like one of the like 5 7-mana legendaries in my hand and going, oh, shoot. You have Mezzadune the Fractured is actually really good with a lot of these things. I mean, the first time I played it, I got Therazane off of it.
Pretty good.
So,
seems like
that'll
maybe
do.
The best one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that definitely gave me maybe too rosy an opinion of the card, but that is your best hit. You know, I also got like a Gyre Worm off of it, which does 3 damage, and that's not bad to have like a 1 mana deal 3 damage and have a tiny body to go with it. I even had a game with this deck where I literally only drew the top end. I didn't have an elemental I could play until turn like 4. And it was not a good one either. Still won though, because because I did manage to make it to turn 7, and then when you're playing legendary elementals every turn that also are dealing 6 damage to their face, that can be really difficult for any deck to deal with. So this is, it's a snowball deck that also, even if your minions are not always attacking face, you're still doing 6 damage to their face. It's okay. And so if you like a board-based deck that also has some over-the-top damage and just snowballing, it's something that, doesn't really quite work in Standard, but in Twist with the extra rules, with the hero power and all that stuff, it absolutely can be effective, and it will just murderize the Arfuses and make big boards that are hard for the Illidan to get through to kill you with their spells. So overall, had a good time with it, and I recommend it. All right.
Yeah. Scar and Kalamos really push you over the finish line a lot of the time.
Yeah. You do want to really try to get an elemental every turn if you can because of Scar.
Yeah. So I have the lesser win rate heroes to go over, but that I've still enjoyed. Leeroy, I sort of recently have been playing more. I've got to imagine, I mean, maybe it's just me, maybe I haven't played enough, but I've got to imagine that 42% is it's like people just not necessarily playing him correctly. Initially, I had thought, oh, you've got to keep Crusader Aura, right? Just, explode onto the board and Crusader Aura. And it's like, yes, ideally, if you can Crusader Aura on 3 and just snowball, that's great. But really, the most important thing for Leeroy is card draw and board flood, right? Your best card in the mulligan is probably First Day of School, because it's 0 mana, get 2 0 mana 1-drops. So you just keep that kind of regardless, and then you're going to want something more expensive that you can cheat out with the hero power. The legendary, I forget the name, it's something goofy, but 3 mana 3/3 Divine Shield, Lifesteal. That guy.
Bristleback.
Wicker
Flame Bristleback. Wicker Flame Bristleback. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. That one. Very good at defending other things, like, an Acolyte of Pain you want to get some good hits out of, or a Voracious Reader, I think it's called, which is the symmetrical effect that if you have fewer than 3 cards at the end of your turn, you draw up to 3 in your hand. So there's a lot of hand refill things. You need to make sure you have one. at least one. There's one of like all the greatest hits, right? You've got the Demon Hunter weapon that refills your hand, up to 3. You've got the Reader that I mentioned. You've got Acolyte of Pain. You've got Crooked Cook that, as long as you hit the opponent for 3 damage, you'll draw a card. You've got Stargazer Luna, which can be pretty nutty on, turn 4 or 5. And Divine Favor, right? How could I forget Divine Favor, right? If you ever empty your hand, you Divine Favor, refill, it's nuts.
Yeah, Salad's Pride you have too.
Yeah. Very easy to draw, like, your whole deck. Salad's Pride is especially nice if you have that as your expensive thing to hero power out on 1, because it gives you 2 1-drops, which are going to be free. You've also got sort of the targeted draw of the Knight that draws you a holy spell. You've got High Host Silver Ring, which draws you a holy spell. So you don't need to keep Crusader Aura, because decent odds you're going to pick it up along the way. You just need to never run out of cards. Because that way you can just keep making a board and forcing out answers, and then get your Crusader Aura down. And then if they clear your Crusader Aura board, you play Warsong Commander and you kill them from hand. So it's very fun. The games are fast. Sometimes the discount is going to do ludicrous stuff for your opponent and you're going to get blown out. But a lot of times, it's set up so that it is more beneficial to you than it is to them. And you get to just, let's do this, right? You get to just go at them, and very, very fast games, which is nice. So then the other one that I played even more, honestly, that I really like, even though doesn't do, it's probably like a 40-60 into Arfus, if I'm honest. And it, it can struggle against some of the aggressive stuff too, but I just like playing it. That's Brann. And I mean, as always, but particularly I feel like this, tempo is king. You've got to have stuff to do early if you can help it. I think an important thing about Brann that I'm not sure how many people knew before playing him is you can bank the hero power. So you can hero power on 1 and then play a battle cry on 2 and it will double that battle cry.
I will say I definitely did not know that when I was playing it. And
really
I just learned
helps.
that from you typing in the show notes. Yeah.
Really helps. So,
reading is important.
Honestly, I was just like, well, turn 1, I don't have any players, hero power. Oh, look, it's active. So, just keep a weather eye. And because of the nature of Battlecry minions usually having worse bodies and Brann's effect transforming the stuff you play into a beast of the same cost, you can get some pretty great, like even turn 2 pressure if you've got like Maze Runner, I think it is, which is a 2-mana 1/1 that summons a 2-drop. So you'll hero power on 1, summon 2 2-drops, and then the 1/1 Maze Runner will get transformed into something else. Solid pressure for turn 2. There's also like the Sewer Rat or something that is like a 3 cost. That's a 1/1 that summons a 2/3 beast with taunt. And
yeah.
That
Informer Champ, which is the 1/1 that summons a 5/5 that's cost 5.
All of those effects are in there, right? And it doesn't matter that the thing is a 1/1 because it gets transformed. And sometimes you can low roll on those, sometimes you high roll on those. Be aware. There's a visual bug presently that the art will not change, so you're not actually going to be like looking at the card that it's become. So make sure you mouse over to see what it is. Like it'll show the right stats, but the art will be whatever the card originally was that got transformed. Very goofy. Hopefully they fix it, because you want to know right away when you get a Bittertide Hydra, because that can kill you.
Yeah,
but it has the capability of applying pressure early if you have those kinds of draws. And then, of course, doubling battle cries also can be tremendous value. You've got the thing that like draws a beast, it costs 3 less. And you've got, of course, Novice Engineer, which is going to be doubled, 2 mana draw 2. You've got, well, this is a tempo thing, but there's like the 6 mana Warlock card that's a 2/2 that summons a demon with taunt and stats equal to your hand size. So
Abyssal Summoner, yeah.
Getting that doubled is great. That's an excellent one. A lot of times there are situations where you want to plot out like when you are hero powering for something that turn and when you're like, well, I can get just a single instance of this battle cry and then I will hero power now to bank for next turn because I want to play the Abyssal Summoner on curve, something like that. Get those big spikes. You'll kind of have on turns and off turns in terms of your spikes sometimes. You do have Lotheb, so be aware when that can be a great tool for you to just be like, stop doing things. And then most of the time you close out with double Alex, right? That is your 10 mana, I 16 you, and you die. That is 2/3 of Arfus's life total right now. Let me tell you, you got to fight for the other bit of their health, right? Like you got to make sure to get that chip damage in and then just focus on surviving. Gigafin is probably the number one. I would keep Gigafin against Arfus, honestly. Gigafin, of course, is insane because it transforms so they can't get their minions back. You just eat their board. It's so a one-sided board clear, so very good. Particularly if you can macaw it the following turn. But it's one of the ones where I feel like the deck is built quite well because of the transform. There's everything benefits from that. It's just sometimes there are games where it feels like it's really tough to weave in that 1 mana for the hero power here and there. And since you are all minions, the fighting for board can be challenging. I wish we had something like the lurker below. That would be very welcome. You know, a more like mid-range kind of clear.
I mean, you do have Night Elf Huntress.
You do. That's a very good one. Yeah, that's about as good as it gets for mid-game board clears.
Yeah, and Dinomatic can be okay, though that also clears your board, so that's less.
Right, it's kind of awkward. You have to like make the trades and then do it. So like there's stuff there. If you don't have Alex, there's also, and sometimes you'll do this first to buy time to then do the double Alex later. I think it's called like Tidal Revenant or something.
Yeah, deal 5, gain 8. Yeah.
So that's great, right? Deal 10, gain 16. Very nice for setting up to try and buy time to be able to do the double Alex. They flow pretty nicely into each other.
And sometimes Hagatha can get you a fair amount of burn too.
Yeah.
If you're picking the spells correctly.
Although I feel like very frequently I've like just filled my hand for a late Abyssal Summoner. It's very hard to like double every step of that. But yeah, Hagatha can get you some nice 5/5s for some goofy stuff. I guess you can probably get Bloodlust in one of them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. I like Brann the most, but it's also the one where I've had really great wins and I've had like, oh god, this is kind of miserable sorts of losses. So
one thing that I will add is that there are some cards that discover you other battle cries, like Blazing Invocation and Waxmancy, at least. And there's also like a Grindstream Informant. When you are doing that, don't make the mistake that I did. Don't pick a minion that buffs itself.
or your hand.
Yeah, or your hand, because it's not going to matter. Like I did that. I took like a faceless something or other that got, plus health equal to something. And then I'm like, oh yeah, this is useless. Good job, me. I could have picked literally anything else. It would have been better than this.
Yeah.
So just do be aware of that when you are picking. Just remember what your passive does, and don't regret your choice 5 seconds later.
Yeah, and that's true for a lot of these decks, and that because of the passives, they play pretty differently. If you're playing Xyrella, you have to change what lethal is. Even with like Al-Akir, if you play Siamat and you have an extra mana for your hero power, like you don't need to pick Taunt or Divine Shield because you can just give it Taunt and Divine Shield, so you can get Rush, Wind Fury, Taunt, Divine Shield for 8 mana, which is real nice, especially if you already played Therazane. There's not
unless you want to give it like Rush, Divine Shield, and then refresh the Divine Shield after training. Like that's
true. That is actually a valid case, depending on the board state that you have.
But you don't need to give it Taunt.
No,
you do not need to give it Taunt. You already have a way to give it Taunt, and having lots of Taunt in that deck is super nice, especially because a lot of stuff can just clear it.
Talk about a counter to Guff.
Yeah,
Guff
poor
is
Guff.
so sad into Al-Akir. For those unaware, Guff is the hero power druid.
Or if he's a Quartzite Crusher.
Attack and attack the enemy face deck. And yeah, taunt is cheat.
Taunt and a Divine Shield just to really thumb your nose at the poor Guff. So if for some reason you're seeing a lot of Guff, this is your counter with Al-Akir.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of Guff until they make some fairly significant changes.
Yeah, and I forget when it's going to or likely to happen, the actual balance besides health stuff. But I imagine they will be doing some buffs as well as nerfs, because some of them, like Cthulhu, I tried so hard, and it did not matter, because Cthulhu, it honestly, I kind of feel like the Cthulhu hero power needs to be just start of turn, discover a disciple of Cthulhu, because spending the 1 mana on it always felt like you
just playing behind every turn.
Yeah, you had to, but also you need that mana to not die, because people are always value trading your stuff. It's like you can get extremely, extremely large Cthulhu's, but a lot of times it's like you have to play it on 8 to stabilize. So,
or if it was like discover and play without paying the casting cost. Like,
I mean, a lot
That
of
might
them
be a little insane.
A lot of them have battle
well,
cries.
yeah, Cthulhu needs a lot of help.
Yeah, maybe if it discovered and discounted by 1, so then at least if you were playing it the turn you were discovering, you would be paying at cost. Something. Yeah, so something needs to be a little bit smoother there, because I would feel like I could either have enough resources by hero powering or be able to fight reasonably for board, but not both. Yeah. And I want to play Cthulhu. Cthulhu's cool.
If you do play the Cthulhu, remember that it is even if it doesn't lethal, it is a really big minion left behind, and not all decks can
Quite
deal with
large.
that.
And
Very large.
you can discover a Doomcaller to reshuffle it into your deck. So that's important.
I had a board full of 10/10s, and the big body did not matter. It didn't kill anything, and then the 10/10s just killed them.
It does help if you got the thing that gives it taunt from your hero power. That does help. I lost a game again. I had a couple of games as Omu against Cthulhu today somehow. And the first one, I just steamrolled them. And the second one, they got like a 36 health Cthulhu with taunt that I couldn't clear, and they just kept making it bigger. Like, I finally generated the hunter spell that puts the minion's health to 1, like right after I'd finally cleared the Cthulhu, and I'm like, where were you?
But anyway, that's it. Another short episode. We've got kind of light news just until we get an announcement, which should be imminent, I would imagine. I don't know, summer expansion looming, maybe. But in the meantime, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at Concede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com, and write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CoinConcede. If you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottlecap, Scrumpy Monk, Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Forgiven One, Grizzly Bear, and Tyler Knight. Coin Concedes.
Well, I'm going to coin concede to Celestalon for hanging out in my stream on Friday night while I was streaming the beginnings of Twitch, of Twist. It was Twist on Twitch, which is hard to say, but it was cool to have him hanging out, and and it's you can tell how much he loves the mode, and like how much he was geeking out to, like while in chat, like while I was playing. So it's always, I mean, we know the developers love the game, but it's always cool to see. So I've appreciated having him hanging out in chat. So coin concede to you, Purple.
Cool. I guess so.
I will start with Coin Concede to World 8 for the budget decks, but also for the Dude Concede that he gave me earlier this week. Ran into him on ladder, and I was on coin, and I kind of watched him like see my name and then take a while on the turn 1, hit end turn 1, and then turn 2 just hero power. He was on Paladin, so Dude Concede. Which I very much appreciate, although I do expect next time that I run into World 8 that there will be no mercy, which as it should be. And also coin concede to the devs for burning the weekend oil over the weekend for all of the twist problems. It's been a really fun mode, and I'm glad that they really worked to fix that as soon as possible. About as fast a turnaround as you could have asked for, even if it hadn't been for a weekend in the middle. Also, coin concede to Ron Mexico for making Twitch partner. That's awesome. If you don't know him, he's a great streamer. Plays a lot of Hunter, plays a lot of different stuff. Really nice guy. I got to meet him briefly at BlizzCon as well. And finally, coin concede to my seniors for graduating and working really hard to finish up, and just cool to see. I'll miss them next year. It's such a small school that you see even if you're not teaching a kid, you see them all around. And so, but I know they'll do well, and I hope they come back to visit once in a while.
Cool. Well, I'm going to concede to Hat for always still, listening and responding to my messages, even when he's got a whole lot of other stuff to respond to. Sometimes he's short, which is fine. But at times there are things in the creator Discord that I'm just like, what is happening here? And I like to chat about them or ask questions or various things, and he still takes the time, even though he's got to himself deal with everything all the time. Hat just embodies everything everywhere all at once.
I'm still convinced that he owns a time turner, because that's the only explanation.
Yeah.
Or he's actually Doctor Who or something. I don't know what it is, but he clearly has like some sort of supernatural assist somewhere.
I hope they like officially make him community manager soon, and then find a new his actual current position to assist him. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, that's going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and make sure you have chicken. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.